You write in the book that kids can learn a great deal through that, and boys in particular can learn a fair bit about how to set boundaries for themselves, how to delay gratification, how to be responsible when it comes to setting their own boundaries later in life. Yeah. And that's relevant in the context of what we've seen with some of these horrendous shootings and so forth in this country.
Absolutely. Almost always the boys that do these mass shootings that end up in prison, that end up joining ISIS, they're usually males. They're usually boys that have minimal or no father involvement. And so their heart doesn't have that feeling of love by fathers, and they don't have their testosterone channeled by a male toward a good purpose. And so they feel they feel like they have a hole in their heart oftentimes. But there's also something else going on that's much more practical. I was talking about roughhousing before, and a lot of people say, oh, the example that I gave with roughhousing has to do with a lot with boundary enforcement. The father saying, no, there will be no more roughhousing unless you think of your sister's needs, unless you understand the difference between that push, which was aggressive, versus a softer push, which is leverage and assertive. That's okay. And it comes from experiences like that. But I find a lot of people get confused with the term boundary enforcement versus boundary setting. So moms are often very good at boundary setting. They'll say your bedtime needs to be 9 o'clock. Dads tend to be more likely to do the boundary enforcement in a tougher type of way. They'll say your bedtime is 9:30. And so it is statistically true that dads, when they're parenting, set bedtimes that are later than mom's bedtimes. But it's also statistically true that the children with dads get to bed sooner than they do with the children with moms. Yes, exactly.
Really?
And one of the differences between boundary setting versus boundary enforcement. So dads will be more likely to say, okay, your bedtime is, let's say, 9:30, but you have to have your homework and everything else done. And if you get everything done, the chores, et cetera, done well, we can have the time before 9:30 can be your time, and I'll do anything you want, including roughhousing. Mother's going, you must be kidding. You're not going to roughhouse before bedtime. And the dad will say, just let me handle it. But when dads do handle it, they find that the children focus on getting everything done. And then they usually do, the first few times they do sloppy homework just to get it done quickly. Then the father says, you do sloppy homework again. Then there'll be no free time at all. And then the child eventually learns to do the homework well, to brush the teeth well, do all the things their responsibilities well, and still have enough time left over before that 9:30 time. And then, whereas with the mother, the child will learn more frequently to just put things off a little bit. And then it comes to be 9 o'clock, the bedtime that mama set. And the child goes, well, I didn't finish my homework yet. And mom goes, oh, well, I don't want him to go in without the homework being done. So let's work on that homework. Well, mom, I did the homework. Now, can I have a story? And then it becomes 9:45 or 10 o'clock. And so that gives you a little bit of an example of that. But let me give a clearer example of boundary setting versus boundary enforcement. Moms and dads, by the way, all of these things are reversed with some parents. Some dads are like moms and some moms are like dads. But dads and moms will both tend to say, sweetie, you can't have your ice cream until you finish your peas. And so that's the boundary setting. And the children, of course, will do the boundary testing, have as few peas as possible before they get their ice cream, of course. And the difference is in the boundary enforcement. With moms, the child will be likely to say something like, Mom, I got bullied again in school today. I feel really badly. Could maybe I have my ice cream sooner? And mom will think to herself, I don't want to get into a huge fight over a few peas when it's been a bad day. So, okay, sweetie, I'll tell you what, have this, maybe 20 more peas, and she'll take a knife and set aside those 20 peas. And then the child will realize unconsciously, I can manipulate a better deal here with appealing to mom's certain sensitivities, whatever they are, and then try to have 10 peas. And then mom will go, hey, all right, you had the 10 peas. At least you tried. Okay, you can have your ice cream now. Dad is more likely to say, excuse me, we had a deal here. The deal here is you can't have your ice cream until you finish your peas. Oh, Dad, you're so mean. Mom doesn't do this. well, this is my rules, and if you continue whining and complaining, there'll be no more ice cream tomorrow night either. And then the child goes, oh, shoot, with Dad, I've got to actually finish my ice cream, finish my peas before I get my ice cream. And so the child with Dad learns, and this is all unconscious, learns that I have to focus on doing what I need to do in order to finish the peas, in order to get what I want to have, the ice cream. The child is learning postponed gratification. We'll get to postponed gratification in a minute, but just to say at the outset, it is the single biggest predictor of being successful or a failure, being able to have postponed gratification. In this electronic age, that prediction is probably much greater than it used to be, because you're constantly being tempted to be sidetracked by the newest text or the newest invitation for a video game, etc. And so the child that has that postponed gratification is much less likely to have ADHD. So children raised predominantly by dads, only 15% have ADHD in the United States. Children raised predominantly by moms, 30% have ADHD. Because if you look at that example, you can see that the child with the mom is learning not to finish, not to put its attention on what it needs to do, but it's learning to put its attention on how to manipulate a better deal so it doesn't need to do what it needs to do to get what it wants, the ice cream. Whereas with Dad, the child has no choice but to focus on what she or he needs to do, finish the peas in order to get the ice cream. So you take that postponed gratification to school, and here's what happens. The child with the postponed gratification can finish their homework. The child with the postponed gratification may be a tall, good-looking, athletic child, but goes to school, and if he does not have postponed gratification, he can't do the drills that are necessary to be the best basketball player. So mom, or a musician or actor. And so mom may discover, typically moms are very sensitive to children's potential and children's dreams. And they may encourage the boy to, sweetie, you have a wonderful singing voice. Why don't you practice and be a good singer? And the child will go to practice, get maybe a tutor, but won't practice often enough to be one of the best. So she or he doesn't make the basketball team, doesn't make the skiing team or whatever, doesn't make the finalists for the play, and feels badly about himself. And here's the trick. Mom has encouraged the child to dream and pursue his dreams. That is wonderful. But when the child doesn't also have the discipline to pursue his or her dreams, she or he fails. And when the child continues to pursue dream after dream and fail time after time, after a while, the child becomes ashamed of himself or herself and becomes afraid to dream. And that's when a child begins to withdraw, feeling ashamed that every time she or he tries out, they're just the laughingstock because they always fail.
Yes, what you've just said is in the book, of course, and I find it remarkable that your research shows that perhaps we just haven't appreciated how solid many dads' instincts are when it comes to their contribution. I noticed with our kids, they look to mum from a very early age for warmth and nurture. It seemed, me for play and stimulation. All are necessary. But one of the things to draw out of this, I think, is that it would be good. There's a lot of support for women. There's a lot of ways in which they can go out and learn about their role, what the kids need from them. Governments even are in it.
Yes.
But we don't do the same. As you say, I was unaware of quite a bit of this research until I read the book.
Yes, absolutely. I'm working now with the White House, and one of the things I'm suggesting to them is to create, if you want to make America great again, you make the American family great again. And if you want to make the American family great again, you don't focus on no child left behind until you understand that a child will be left behind if you leave a parent behind. And so trying to create a program called No Parent Left Behind. But that means having to make sure that that males are trained well to be good fathers. So we're suggesting the creation of a father warrior program, because in the old days, boys' sense of purpose came from being warriors. But today, with a need for fewer boys in war, oftentimes boys have a purpose void. And when boys have a purpose void plus a dad void, that's when they often become destructive. And so I'm suggesting now that there be a father warrior program to begin to train boys to be involved with the family at a very early age, to know how to feed their sister when their sister is very young, or their brother when their brother is very young, to know how to babysit, to know how to communicate. I'm suggesting that in all elementary schools, there be one of the core curriculum that's required every year is communication skills training, so that boys don't bully other boys, so that boys can listen to girls, so that girls can listen to boys, so we know how to listen to each other and overcome those natural propensities just to be me, me, me. And the more the culture becomes me, 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 the more communication skills is important. So I'm looking at communication skills training in elementary schools, but also among, try to up to scale what I do around the country with communication skills training for couples, and saying you can have children trained to be good communicators and not to become undefensive to personal criticism, and then learn that at school, if they go home and they see their mother and father arguing defensively, they'll lose respect for their mother and father, and therefore the family will be destabilized in a different way. So you have to have good communication skills from parents, good communication skills from children, and then you have to have things like family dinner nights, so that mothers and fathers learn how to conduct a family dinner night, so it does not become a family dinner nightmare.
Thank you for watching this episode. We appreciate your support. If you value vital conversations like this one, be sure to subscribe to the channel there, and also click the notification bell to stay up to date with new releases.